there, but he wasn't done.
Guess what? We took on the NRA, and we're going to take them on again, and we won, and we will win again. But we're not stopping here. I'm determined to ban assault weapons in this country. Determined. I did it once before, and I'll do it again. For many of you home, I want to be clear. It's not about taking away anybody's guns. In fact, we should be treating responsible gun owners as examples how every gun owner should behave. I have 2 shotguns at home. It's a long story, but I'm not opposed to guns. But I support the Second Amendment, and I support the Second Amendment. But the Second Amendment, as one of the most conservative justices in history, Justice Scalia once wrote, quote, like most rights, the rights granted by the Second Amendment are not unlimited. They're not unlimited. Right now, you can't go out and buy an automatic weapon. You can't go out and buy a cannon. And for those brave right-wing Americans who say it's all about keeping America's independent and safe, if you want to fight against the country, you need an F-15. You need something a little more than a gun. No, I'm not joking. Think about this. Think about the rationale that's used to provide this. And who are they shooting at? Shooting at these guys behind me.
Wow. That's actually a very powerful retort to a lot of the sort of pushback that gun control advocates get from Second Amendment supporters about needing the F-35. Now, I've always thought that was an argument with very specious reasoning, because obviously the U.S. military would not be able to bomb its own citizens, at least on the mainland, okay? Now, what do I mean by that? Look, they're not going to bomb their own houses. They're not going to bomb their own families. They're not going to bomb their own communities, right? I mean, that's common sense. If the United States government ever decided to say go to war with its own people, first and foremost, you would have a large amount of defections, a historic amount of defections from the military, because, as I said, people aren't going to kill their own family members. They don't want to bomb their house. They don't want to bomb their kids' elementary school. So you're going to have record numbers of defection, people leaving the military. Okay? And second of all, the U.S. military is made up of the American people. Am I right or am I wrong? Okay, so you're essentially asking the military to kill themselves and their families. Again, so that's not going to happen. Any real war between the U.S. government and its people wouldn't look like a typical war. And that's why I think that argument does not hold weight. It wouldn't be a typical war with bombs. It would be a situation where armed civilians were out in the streets shooting at armed troops and soldiers or peacekeepers, etc., in the cities. It would have to be a ground war. Okay, also, the U.S. military is not going to destroy the amount of American property and wealth that it would need to destroy in order to bomb people with F-35s or whatever he said, F-15s or F-35s, whatever. They're not going to bomb L.A. knowing the amount of rich people's money is in L.A. They're not going to bomb New York City knowing that Wall Street's down the street. They're not going to bomb Chicago with the Chicago Stock Exchange. Again, so any war between the American people and, say, the military would have to be a pacification type situation where you saw troops called into this, and we've seen that here. I mean, we had in city of Gary, we had the National Guard coming here at some point in the 90s when I was growing up during the crack era. Okay, other cities in '92 when there was the LA riots, George H.W. Bush called in the troops. I believe it was the National Guard as well to clean up the streets in LA. That's more what you would have, more so than bombs being dropped on people. You're not going to be able to bomb American cities. The U.S. military, the Army's not going to be able to bomb American cities. So, I think that's a very disingenuous argument, but I think it's effective. Rhetorically, it is effective. Okay? Even though I disagree, I will say that Australians gave up their guns in the mid-90s after a series of mass shootings. And now, during COVID, you saw Australian people being gathered and put in COVID camps. You can look this up on YouTube or Twitter. I mean, it was very hard to distinguish between Australia and China. The Chinese lockdown, where you saw Australian citizens being put into COVID camps where they were not allowed to come outside by armed soldiers. Now, that could never happen here because Americans are so armed. And that is why I think we should remain armed as the American public. Like I said, I think that it is though I think that Joe Biden's response is rhetorically something that will probably hit people, and people go, "Oh, he said you're gonna need planes." In practice, he's wrong. In practice, he's wrong. The U.S. military and no military will ever be able to fully conquer the American public. We're the most armed society in the history of the world. 400 million guns, 330 million people. Period. Any ground war would get extremely ugly very quick. We have tens of millions of people walking around who have been in the military with full military training. And all of them ain't big fans of the government, okay? So I disagree with Joe Biden. I actually think the American public could absolutely win a war against the U.S. military because, again, it would not be a typical war. It could not be a typical war. So I disagree with him there. And then he made his one more point that I really wanted to talk about. Let me see where we at.
You know, I call it the Safer America's plan, and both your members of Congress voted for it. It's based on a simple notion. When it comes to public safety in this nation, the answer is not defund the police, it's fund the police. Fund the police. And give them, we expect them to do everything. We expect them to protect us, to be psychologists, and to be sociologists. I mean, we expect you to do everything. I'm not joking. Everything. You realize more police officers are killed dealing with domestic violence than anything else? You realize that? The point is, we ask so much of you. So much of you. I've not met a cop who likes a bad cop. There's bad in everything. There's lousy senators, there's lousy presidents, there's lousy doctors, there's lousy lawyers. No, I'm serious. But I don't know any police officer that feels good about the fact that there may be a lousy cop. And I'm tired of not giving the kind of help they need.
You know, again, this is not surprising coming from, as a lot of us on the more radical black left call him, Jim Crow Joe. This is obviously the architect of the 1994 Clinton crime bill, which put 100,000 more police officers on the streets, okay, and built plenty of more prisons. Joe Biden, many years bragged about that until it became unpopular for him to brag about. So I don't think it's any real surprise that he wants to fund the police. This is what he's always done. This is who he is, and much of the United States public supports him. You know, even in the black community, there's a lot of people in the black community who support funding the police more. But I do want to put this into context, okay? $118 billion was spent funding American police forces in 2018. According to Security Police Reform, it collectively makes American police forces the world's third most expensive military, only after the United States military and China's. Now tell me, do you think that having a police force that is essentially the world's third highest funded military has made American streets safer? Think about all the cities we have in this country with murder rates and crime rates that you only see in third world countries. And then compare it to other first world countries that don't spend quite as much on their police force as the United States does. Think about that, okay? Think about that. Just spending a bunch of money on the police has not done anything. America, and this was what defund the police was always about, it was saying that America would be much better off funding homes for the homeless, better schools, invest in creating jobs and opportunities, and intervention programs than just saying, let's put more cops on the streets, because obviously putting more cops on the streets don't work. Or America would not have the murder rates and crime rates that it has in comparison to other countries that spend far less on law enforcement than the United States does. But those countries have a social safety net, a much better social safety net. Other first world countries, Canada, other countries in Europe, Japan, etc. And so, again, they don't have the level of desperation, anxiety, and fear in their society that we do. But again, this is one of those situations where the black community got hoodwinked by Joe Biden and the Democrats, by white liberals and the colored people who love them. They said that they would focus on the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. No. Let me rewind. Let me go back. Before that, Joe Biden said that he would have a police oversight committee. Remember that? Then as soon as he got into office, he dismantled it. As soon as he got all those black votes, he immediately stopped talking about the police oversight commission and dismantled it. Because he said, look, we're going to focus on the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. But what's this? Oops. We don't have 60 votes in Congress. I'm sorry, we can't do that. Well, you knew that when you dismantled the police oversight committee, that you would never be able to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. So that just means he never wanted to do any of that. Joe Biden is a mass incarcerator to his core. That is who he is. That is what he is. That is what he's been. Let's not pretend he's anything else. And let's remember all the people, all of us who are treated like Uncle Toms and sellouts because we didn't want to support him in 2020 because we said that this is exactly who he is. Let me get this caller. Hello, caller.
Yes, I've been listening to your commentary.
What's up, brother?
Well, how you feel, brother?
It's all good.
You know, but I fought in Vietnam War, 68, 69, 10, 50.
Mm-hmm.
You know, supposedly to stop that communist aggression.
Right.
And this allowed our children, like yourself, you understand, to go to school and, you know what I'm talking about, and put it on, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And make what would be a reality than just, you know, will be a reality and just a thought in the wind.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, if in fact you can't bring a knife to a gunfight, you know, you either for me or against me. You know, even in the Bible, you know, the Lord used one nation to take out another, evildoers, man. So these things going to be. I tell you what, I would rather live in America than anywhere else on this planet, and especially in third world countries, man, because I've been there, done that, man. You know, I had to become what I had to be, you know.
Right.
You know, I followed in mechanized infantry, you know, 53 Bravo 10, you know what I'm saying?
I heard that.
And so, you know, you come into a lot of issues that in a war that you couldn't even imagine as how you know, as how you survive sometime, man. You know, but I know it was the grace of God, but anyway, but everywhere on this planet, man, I would rather, you know, reside where I reside and go through this situation we're going through now. I don't agree with them young blacks killing each other.
Right.
I don't, you know, I mean, why turn, you know, the gun on yourself? I don't understand that. So you know, but in spite of what's going on, you know, in the world, you know, United States, we're second to none, man. And that, and you know, and I believe that, you know. But now it's come to a boil that everybody want to be king of the mountain. You know what I'm saying? But so that's why you got this thing, you know, that we're going through. You understand, with issues of magnitude about the president, the White House, and what's going on in the White House. Hey, man, you know, it's not gonna go away. You ain't gonna blink your ass, gonna go. Everybody is, you know, you got different people belong to different parties. You got the, what you got Republicans, Democrats, then you got the Independents, man, then you got this, that, and other. So, but in actuality, man, it all, you know, comes out in a wash, man. There's no, there's really no, you know, answer to what's have developed, and you can't go back on it. You know what I'm saying? You know, we ain't going nowhere. What about reparation? You know, promise. You know, false hope and empty promises. That's all our politicians, you know, kick to us, man, on around election time.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
You know, so you know, I like your analogy, man, and you know what I mean. And apparently, you make your parents proud, man. You know, I got kids that went off to school, come back, you know, sit down and talk to the old man, you know, and did this and that, and but yet still, I always tell my kids, man, in closing, I always say, you know, I say them credit cards is good. I mean, they all right. You know, keep that plastic magic in your pocket. But ain't nothing like some money.
I heard that. Thank you for your call, brother.
No. Hey. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for reaching out like you do. You're a pretty smart kid, man.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate you, man. Like I said, you make your parents proud, and I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you, brother. Thank you. I do it for you, and I do it for my fam. All right. Before we got to get ready to go to a break in a second, but before that, I want to talk about Joe Biden. Before we get out of here, I just want to say that this was probably Joe Biden's best week as president. His approval ratings are up 9 points since July. His approval rating has hit 40% in the month of August. 40% of people approve of the job he's doing. His negatives have gone down a lot. His positives have gone up a lot. The Republicans have done a lot to shoot themselves in the foot over the last few months since Dobbs and that abortion situation since They overturned Roe v. Wade, and what looked like a cakewalk for the Republicans. Just a few months ago, it looked like the Republicans would sweep into power with historic majorities. Now is a lot closer, and a lot of people are predicting that the Democrats will retain the Senate, and maybe, and just maybe, keep the House. You never know. All right, folks, I got to go hit this break really quick. When we come back, happy happies!